You have to write a summary and you're not really sure how to do it? Let's take a look. Why would anybody want to write a summary? Well, first of all, because you have to. It's one of the tasks that comes up in pretty much every single Klausur in the EF, in the Q1, in the Q2, in your Abitur. So you will have to do it constantly all the time. It's a very important, very basic task. But let's take a look at what the idea behind a task like this is. So basically you are helping a person who does not want to go through the process of reading the entire text. If you have that idea in mind, I think it will help you a lot. Of course, your teacher will have read the text, but for the sake of this task, they will always pretend that they have not read it, and you're telling them about this text as if they didn't know about it at all. So, I will take you through 3 steps that will show you how to write the perfect summary. Let's go! So, let's take a look at how to write a great summary. First of all, and this is no surprise, you should read the text. But there's some tricks on how to do this effectively to make the other things you have to do later on much easier. The first one is you should already do something visual. So please underline passages that you find interesting, phrases, mark them in any way so that later on it will make your work easier to find things that are important and crucial to the text. You can already also divide the text into sentence units. So sometimes it already uses paragraphs, but sometimes you can put together, say, 2 or 3 paragraphs which have a similar point and later on describe them as one. It's good if you already write down keywords here in English so that you know later on what to work with, and you can work more with your keywords and less with the text itself, because that poses some problems, and I will tell you about later on. You should really ask yourself, what is this text about before you start writing? So imagine somebody comes up to you and says, well, you've read the text, what is it about? You should be able to give a good answer to that. If you're not able to do that, go back to the text, think for a little bit, because that's really good if you can do that before you start the actual writing. The actual writing starts, as you know, with an introductory paragraph, and that is central to every summary. You will always get a number of points, usually for this introductory paragraph itself. What information does it normally include? You know, but let's go through it. It's the text type that you have. It's the title of the text. It's the author and the topic. Most importantly, the topic. Every student can copy title, text type, or not text type, well, you have to think a little bit too, but title and author. But to get the topic right shows that you understood the text already. So this is more important than the other points. Sometimes you will also have a date and place of publication. If you do, you can add that too, and you should. Let's go through this example I created. And as you can see, I marked this example, the sentences here, these 2 sentences with the same color as the bullet points up above there. Yeah. So the text type is a newspaper article. The title is What Will Our New Normal Feel Like? Hints are beginning to emerge. The author of this article is Max Fisher, and we have date and place of publication in the New York Times on April 24th, 2020. So New York Times means it's in New York. I don't have to add that. That's pretty clear. More interestingly now, what's the topic of this article? Now, if you look at the title, somebody could just say, well, this text is about our new normal. But that wouldn't really be good enough, because we don't know, is it our new normal in terms of technology or new normal in terms of different kinds of food we will eat. So you have to be more precise, and what the text is about. An example for a sentence would be the enduring changes to people's lives that the corona pandemic will cause. Because this is what this text really is about. You can check online, it's an actual article. You've got the introduction. Let's move on. Then you would start to write the main part. There are not really that many things to remember about writing the main part. I try to organize it into 3 things you should absolutely do and that are important, and 3 things you should not do because they usually are not part of a summary. Let's take a look at the do's. Focus on the main information. This is obvious. So you leave out some aspects that are too detailed. Roughly speaking, your text should be 1/3 or to 1/4 of the length of the original text. So some people actually make the mistake of leaving out too many details. That's also not a solution. Leave out details, but you don't leave out everything. You don't leave out the whole text. There needs to be some substance to what you write. And this one is the most important one from my observations, that you should only use your own words and not go through the text sentence by sentence or paragraph by paragraph, but you should create some distance, and distance can be created by using a different structure or approaching the text slightly different than the author does, to show you've understood what the author is saying here, and you don't need to follow every sentence and every construction that he has made. It's not enough to slightly change the sentence just a little bit. You really need to make your own sentences. Another problem area is the tense. Normally summaries are written in the present tense, so the author writes, he points out that there are problems and so forth. And we have a lot of he, she, it S's, right? Because you talk about the author and say he or she, and you say the author points out. So don't forget this S. Especially, if you're making long sentences about what the author is writing, saying. Another thing you should not do is use the ing form a lot. Some people write the author is writing, he is telling. In speaking, that's fine to do that. You don't do this in a written text. In a written summary, the standard tense is the present tense, so the simple present. So you say simply, the author writes, the author tells us about. This is your standard tense. There are some deviations. For example, sometimes you have to talk about things that happened in the past or so. In this case, yes, you can make exceptions, and there are some rules to that as well. They're very detailed. But your standard tense should be the present tense. Let's now take a look at what you should not be doing. First one is, you are not using references or quotes. You can use these, or you need to use them in the second task, in the analysis that are normally Klausur has that as the second task. Yes, here you need quotes, references to the text. It's not part of a standard summary. If you have a different comprehension task as number 1, for example, outline, it sometimes can make sense to refer to lines or parts of the text, but as a general rule, you should not use it. You're not supposed to comment. Again, think of it as somebody asks you what's in the text, and you don't put in there what you think about this information in the text. You're only telling this person what is in the text. You're also not analyzing the text. So you're not looking at how was the text constructed, what kind of thing, what kind of metaphor or whatever did the author use. You're only telling us what's in the text. So these 3 things are absolute no-goes. Please don't use them. Focus again on the do's, the few things you should do. Read through them again, and this should really be what you remember. Focus on main information, use your own words, and use the present tense. And that's it, really. Alright, I hope that helped to organize your ideas on how to write a summary. If you need other information on English, I'll put a link up here somewhere, and you can click there and see my other English videos. Have a good day, talk to you soon, goodbye!